What if knowledge is not light, but fire? And what if, in carrying this fire, you are destined not to illuminate the world, but to burn yourself alive? There is a hidden weight that no one warns you about. They tell you to seek knowledge, to be curious, to expand your mind. But they do not tell you that the more you learn, the more unbearable life becomes. Carl Jung understood this burden. He called it the shadow, the unspoken truth lurking beneath consciousness, the side of ourselves and of humanity that we would rather not see. And yet, once you see it, you can never unsee it. That is the curse of knowing too much. Ignorance is often mocked, but ignorance has its blessing. It allows people to laugh freely, to find joy in trivialities, to live without carrying the unbearable awareness of how fragile, cruel, and absurd existence can be. The ignorant man dances in the village square, while the one who sees too much sits in the corner, paralyzed because he knows how meaningless the dance is. He sees that behind every smile lies fear, behind every handshake lies calculation, behind every act of kindness, the possibility of manipulation. He sees the shadow, and it consumes him. And Nietzsche once warned, if you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. Jung took this further. The abyss is not just outside, it is within. The shadow is your hidden twin, the dark sibling of your consciousness. When you expand your awareness, you do not just illuminate the good, you also awaken the beasts that were sleeping inside. That is why knowing too much rarely leads to peace. It leads to disillusionment, cynicism, sometimes even madness. Think of the whistleblower who sees corruption in every corner of the system. At first, knowledge feels empowering, the thrill of clarity, the righteousness of truth. But the more they uncover, the more they realize. The rot is everywhere. The institutions they once trusted are built on lies. The people they admired are masking greed. What was once faith collapses into despair. And in the end, their knowledge isolates them. Nobody wants to hear the truth. People would rather remain asleep because reality is unbearable when stripped of illusions. The same pattern repeats in personal life. Imagine someone hypersensitive, a person who reads micro-expressions, hears the hidden meaning behind words, notices the cracks in every human facade. They are praised for their insight, their empathy. But deep down, they suffer. Why? Because they can no longer believe in innocence. Every conversation reveals manipulation. Every friendship reveals hidden envy. Every love reveals a shadow of possession and selfishness. What others enjoy blindly, they endure painfully. Knowledge becomes poison. Carl Jung wrote that, to confront a person with his shadow is to show him his own light. But that light does not come cheap. To see your shadow is to lose your illusions. It is to accept that you are not purely good, that humanity itself is not noble, that beneath civilization lies barbarity waiting to erupt. History confirms this. Look at the Holocaust, look at genocides, wars, and mass indoctrination. It was not just evil men. It was ordinary people, your neighbors, your teachers, the ones who smiled politely at you in daylight. Knowing this is unbearable, yet it is truth. This is why so many people resist knowledge, not because they are lazy, but because they instinctively understand its cost. The more you know, the harder it is to love. The more you see, the harder it is to trust. The more awake you are, the harder it is to sleep at night. Awareness is not a gift, it is a wound. And this wound does not heal. But here lies the paradox. Those who carry this burden often hold the greatest potential for wisdom. They may suffer, but they see the structure of reality more clearly. They cannot be easily deceived because they know deception. They cannot be manipulated because they recognize manipulation. They cannot be naive because their innocence has already been slaughtered. The shadow they carry makes them dangerous, but also profound. Think of great philosophers, prophets, and thinkers throughout history. Many of them lived in torment. Nietzsche descended into madness. Schopenhauer drowned in pessimism. Kafka turned daily life into a grotesque nightmare. Even Jung himself wrestled with visions and breakdowns. These men were not weak. They were simply cursed with too much vision. They saw the cracks in the foundation of existence, and the weight of this vision crushed them. Imagine walking through life with X-ray eyes. You see the skeleton behind the skin, the inevitable decay behind the beauty, the lies behind the stories. Could you still enjoy the play? Or would every laugh in the theater sound hollow, every kiss seem temporary, every promise echo with betrayal? That is the life of one who knows too much. The play never fools them, but neither can they leave the theater. They are trapped in awareness, condemned to clarity. Yet, here is where Jung's wisdom becomes vital. To carry the burden of knowledge without being destroyed by it, one must integrate the shadow. You cannot run from the truth, but you can learn to hold it. You cannot erase the darkness, but you can balance it with light. Integration means admitting the ugliness, but also choosing to live despite it. It is not about escaping the burden, but about transforming it into strength. This is why Jung believed the shadow was not merely destructive, but creative. From the shadow comes art, philosophy, depth, authenticity. The man who suffers because he sees too much may also be the one who writes poetry that saves another's soul. The woman who feels too deeply may also be the one who heals with her empathy. The shadow wounds, but it also empowers. Still, let us not romanticize the pain. The reality remains. To know too much is to carry loneliness. Most people will never understand you. You will become a stranger in your own society because you see what they cannot bear to see. You will be accused of being negative, cynical, paranoid. But in truth, you are simply awake, and wakefulness, in a world of sleepers, is the most isolating state of all. So, the question is not whether knowledge is a blessing or a curse. It is both. It is the fire that can warm you or burn you alive. Jung's shadow teaches us that the darkness we uncover in the world is always mirrored by the darkness we uncover in ourselves. And once you step into that awareness, you cannot return. The burden is yours to carry, and only the strong survive it. Knowledge expands the mind, but it also crushes the heart. The question is, are you willing to pay the price for seeing the truth? There is nothing lonelier than seeing what others cannot, and being unable to unsee it. If part one was about the raw burden of knowledge itself, then now we step deeper into the consequences, the exile that comes with clarity. When you begin to see too much, you are quietly pushed out of the circle of common existence. The conversations that once entertained you feel shallow. The jokes no longer make you laugh. The promises no longer touch your heart. And it is not because you want to be distant, but because you are now living in a different dimension of awareness. Jung's concept of the shadow reveals not only our own hidden self, but also the hidden structure of society. To know this is to live among others like a stranger. Take the example of modern social media. For most, it is harmless entertainment, a scroll, a laugh, a distraction. But for someone who sees too much, it is a theater of shadows. They notice how people carefully craft identities, how envy drives consumption, how attention becomes currency. Where others see funny videos, they see a collective hypnosis. Millions trapped in an invisible prison of comparison and dopamine. Can they still laugh at the meme? Not quite, because behind the joke, they see the hunger. Behind the performance, they see the emptiness. This distance is not voluntary. It is imposed by awareness. Once you have read Machiavelli, once you have studied Jung, once you have seen how power, manipulation, and shadow desires shape human behavior, it is impossible to participate innocently. You enter a room, and you immediately sense who is insecure, who is pretending, who is dominating subtly. While others are charmed, you see the invisible chess game. While others fall in love, you see obsession dressed as romance. And while others trust, you see the cracks. It is like wearing glasses that reveal every hidden flaw, and there is no way to take them off. But this gift of perception is also a curse, because human beings crave belonging. We want to feel part of the crowd. To laugh with the group, to share in the illusion, to stand outside is agony. Many people who carry the burden of knowing too much suffer from depression, anxiety, or existential despair. They are not broken, they are simply awake in a world that demands sleep. Think of Cassandra from Greek mythology, the woman cursed with the gift of prophecy. She could see the truth, but no one would ever believe her. She foresaw the destruction of Troy, but her voice was dismissed as madness. That is the archetype of the one who knows too much, truth without audience, vision without belonging, and this archetype repeats in real life. The scientist who warns of ecological collapse is mocked until the floods arrive. The friend who sees the toxicity in a relationship is ignored until the heartbreak comes. The visionary becomes the outcast. Jung would say this is the confrontation with a collective shadow. Society, like individuals, hides its darkness. It hides greed under the name of growth. It hides violence under the name of justice. It hides fear under the name of faith. To see through these disguises is to make yourself dangerous, because society depends on illusions to function. If everyone saw reality naked, the system would collapse. That is why truth-tellers are punished, silenced, or left alone to rot in obscurity. They are not wanted because they disrupt the dream. There is also a personal shadow that comes with knowing too much, arrogance and despair. Once you see the ignorance of others, you may begin to despise them. You may fall into the trap of thinking yourself superior, detached from the herd. This arrogance isolates you further, and in the end, it consumes you. Or, on the opposite side, despair. You may feel that if everything is illusion, then nothing matters. Both arrogance and despair are shadows of excessive knowledge. Jung insisted that wisdom lies not in rejecting the shadow, but in integrating it. To see the darkness without being swallowed by it, that is the real art. But what does integration look like in daily life? Imagine you are at a party. You see the vanity, the superficiality, the silent competition in the room. Your mind whispers, "This is all meaningless." But then you catch yourself. You realize that the meaninglessness itself is part of the human comedy. You choose to dance anyway, not because you are fooled, but because you accept the absurdity. This is integration, to act without being blind, to participate without surrendering your clarity. You play the game knowing it is a game. The philosopher Albert Camus described this attitude as rebellion against the absurd. The absurd is that life has no ultimate meaning, yet we continue to seek it. The rebel is the one who sees the futility, but still chooses to live, to create, to love. Jung's shadow resonates here. Integration means acknowledging the chaos, the cruelty, the hypocrisy, but still affirming life in spite of it. Knowledge no longer paralyzes you, it fuels you. And yet, even with integration, the loneliness does not vanish. The more you see, the more alone you become. Jung himself spent years in near madness, drawing his visions in the Red Book, wrestling with demons no one else could understand. His contemporaries thought he was insane. But from that solitude, he brought forth insights that shaped modern psychology. The loneliness of knowing too much can be the womb of creation, if you can survive it. In modern times, think of whistleblowers, visionaries, or even simple individuals who realize the depth of systemic corruption, or the fragility of relationships. Many retreat, some self-destruct. A rare few transform their burden into art, activism, or philosophy. Kafka turned the absurdity of life into haunting novels. Sylvia Plath transformed despair into poetry. Nietzsche, before his collapse, wrote words that still ignite minds today. The suffering of awareness becomes bearable only when it is transmuted into expression. But let us not soften the reality. Most who know too much do not find glory. They are isolated, misunderstood, sometimes destroyed. To live with eyes wide open is to walk with constant weight pressing on the chest. The smiles of others feel distant. The laughter of crowds feels foreign. You become a ghost among the living. And yet, perhaps that is the price of truth. Jung himself hinted at this. that the greatest danger is not the shadow, but the refusal to face it. Those who close their eyes live comfortably but shallowly. Those who open their eyes live painfully but authentically. The burden is real, but it is also the only path to depth. So, if you feel this loneliness, if you feel this unbearable clarity, understand, you are not broken. You are simply carrying what most refuse to touch. The question is not how to escape the burden, but how to carry it with dignity. The one who knows too much walks alone, but in his solitude, he touches truths the crowd will never touch. And to love with open eyes is to bleed with every kiss. To trust while knowing the shadow is to walk willingly into betrayal. If the burden of knowledge isolates you from society, it tears even deeper wounds in personal relationships. For to know too much is not only to see the hidden face of humanity at large, but to witness the shadows crawling beneath the skin of those you love. Jung's shadow is never abstract. It is intimate. It is in the person you adore, the friend you trust, the parent you admire. To see their shadow is to watch innocence evaporate. And once innocence is gone, you can never love the same way again. Think of love. For most, falling in love is a surrender to illusion. We see the other as pure, radiant, almost divine. We project our unfulfilled desires onto them. But the one who knows too much sees beyond the projection. They notice the possessiveness hidden in affection, the selfishness disguised as care, the fear beneath the promises of forever. While others are drunk with romance, they see the inevitable cracks, the jealousy, the dependency, the hidden violence of needing another to complete oneself. Love becomes not a blissful dream, but a dangerous transaction. Can they still love? Yes, but never blindly. And blindness, ironically, is what makes love intoxicating. This is why people who carry the burden of awareness often feel detached in relationships. They crave intimacy, yet they struggle to surrender to it. They see too clearly, and that clarity robs them of the sweet lies that make love bearable. They know that every "I love you" carries the unspoken shadow. I fear losing you. I want to possess you. I want you to make me whole. The weight of this knowledge can suffocate tenderness. To love deeply, they must constantly silence the analytical voice that whispers, "It will end. It is flawed. It is shadowed." Friendship suffers the same fate. The one who knows too much sees envy when others see encouragement. They notice manipulation when others see kindness. They sense betrayal long before it arrives. Their eyes are trained to detect the shadow, and so trust becomes fragile. To trust fully is to close one's eyes, to ignore the signs, to choose illusion. But how can the awake close their eyes again? This creates a paradox. Those who are most capable of profound connection are also the least able to sustain it. Because they see the shadow, they are capable of loving the whole person, not just the mask. But because they see the shadow, they also cannot pretend. Their love is heavy, honest, unfiltered, and most people cannot handle it. They demand illusions to survive, and so they reject those who expose their darkness. The burdened soul becomes too much, too intense, too unsettling. Family too is not spared. To see your parents' shadow is to realize they were never gods, only fragile, flawed beings, projecting their wounds onto you. To see your child's shadow is to confront their cruelty, their selfishness, their inevitable fall from innocence. This awareness corrodes the comfort of unconditional bonds. It forces you to accept a truth many cannot bear, that even in the closest ties, the shadow lives. But perhaps the greatest relationship destroyed by too much knowledge is the one with yourself. Self-awareness sounds noble, but to truly see your own shadow is devastating. To admit your envy, your cowardice, your pettiness, your lust, your hunger for power, it is like swallowing poison. Most people defend themselves with denial, constructing narratives of goodness. But if you know too much, denial collapses. You see your own hypocrisy. You see the masks you wear. And once you see yourself naked, the mirror is unbearable. This is why Jung insisted that integrating the shadow is the most difficult task of life. It is not just academic, it is survival. For if you cannot accept your own darkness, it will consume you from within. The burden of knowing too much becomes not just external, but internal. You are haunted by yourself. In modern life, this manifests as existential burnout. The therapist who sees the endless cycles of trauma in clients begins to despair of humanity. The philosopher who sees the futility of ambition cannot find joy in his own success. The activist who uncovers corruption loses hope in change. In every field, those who see too much must battle despair. Because the more you uncover, the more you realize that shadows do not vanish. They only change masks. Consider the corporate world. To the naive, it is a ladder of meritocracy. To the awakened, it is a theater of manipulation, where greed is rewarded and honesty punished. Or consider politics. To the hopeful, it is about leadership and service. To the one who knows too much, it is a machine of power games, propaganda, and hidden deals. When you live with this awareness, cynicism becomes your constant companion. But cynicism is a double-edged sword. It protects you from lies, but it also robs you of hope. And hope, fragile as it is what keeps people alive. The burden of knowledge, then, often feels like walking through life without anesthetic. Where others are numb by illusion, you feel every sting, every betrayal, every absurdity raw. It is unbearable at times. This is why many who see too much retreat from the world. They isolate, or they drown themselves in distractions to forget what they know. The irony? Knowledge makes them both powerful and powerless. Yet, within this torment lies a hidden gift. To know too much about human flaws also means you are less likely to be destroyed by them. You expect betrayal, so it does not shatter you. You anticipate endings, so loss does not annihilate you. You see the shadow, so you are not surprised when it appears. This resilience is invisible to others, but it is forged in pain. It is the armor of those who have suffered under the weight of clarity. Jung believed that facing the shadow was not optional, it was destiny. To deny it is to remain a child forever, trapped in illusions. To face it is to mature, though at the cost of innocence. And maturity is always painful. It is the death of simplicity, the funeral of easy joy. But it is also the birth of authenticity. So, perhaps the burden of knowing too much is not meant to be escaped, but endured. To love without illusions, to trust with eyes open, to live knowing death waits at every corner. This is not weakness. It is the deepest form of courage, for it is easy to be happy when blind. It is infinitely harder to live when you have seen the shadow and still choose to love, to act, to create. To carry the shadow is to carry humanity itself, and though the burden breaks you, it also makes you whole. The heaviest burden is not what we carry on our backs, but what we carry in silence within our minds. We have traveled through the curse of awareness, how it isolates you from society, poisons relationships, and even tears open your own identity. But the question remains, if knowledge is such a crushing weight, why do some still seek it? Why did Jung himself walk willingly into the abyss of the unconscious, knowing it might destroy him? Why did philosophers, poets, and mystics across centuries choose suffering over blissful ignorance? The answer is both terrifying and liberating, because within the shadow lies not only destruction, but transformation. To understand this, we must first accept the paradox. Knowledge wounds, but it also awakens. The same awareness that robs you of illusions also frees you from chains. When you see through manipulation, you are no longer enslaved by it. When you recognize your own shadow, you are no longer controlled by it. The burden remains, but it changes form. From a curse to a weapon, from a wound to wisdom. Jung believed that the shadow, once integrated, is not your enemy. It is your hidden ally. Think of fire. In the hands of the blind, fire consumes and kills. In the hands of the aware, fire becomes warmth, light, energy. Knowledge is the same. The ignorant live in comfort, but remain powerless. The aware live in torment, but can reshape reality. That is why those who know too much often stand at the edges of history. Visionaries, prophets, inventors, revolutionaries. They suffer privately, but their suffering births transformation for others. Consider the mystics who withdrew into solitude. To ordinary eyes, they were madmen, but in their madness, they encountered truths that shaped entire cultures. Or the scientists who endured ridicule, persecution, and isolation, yet changed the destiny of humanity with their discoveries. Or even the artists who descended into darkness, producing works that pierced generations with uncomfortable truths. Their burden became legacy. Their shadow became light for those still asleep. But let us be clear, this path is brutal. Many are crushed under it. Not everyone who sees too much transforms their pain. Many collapse into nihilism, addiction, or despair. The abyss does not spare everyone, but those who endure, those who choose not to deny what they know, become something else entirely. They become individuals who no longer belong fully to the crowd. They live on the border between the ordinary and the extraordinary, half cursed, half blessed. And Jung described this as individuation, the process of becoming whole. To individuate is to walk into your own shadow, to wrestle with it, and to emerge changed. It is not enlightenment in the sweet sense of floating above pain. It is enlightenment as survival, as integration, as bearing the unbearable without collapsing. This is the true meaning of strength, not the absence of weakness, but the ability to carry weakness consciously. But how does this look in daily life? Imagine two people facing betrayal. The one blind to the shadow is devastated. They believed in purity, and purity is shattered. The one who has integrated shadow expected betrayal, knew it was possible, and while still wounded, they survive differently. They suffer, but they do not collapse. They bleed, but they do not die inside. Knowledge does not protect them from pain, but it grants them resilience. They are not surprised by the darkness. They already made peace with it. This is the quiet power of knowing too much. You are no longer at the mercy of illusions. You see through false promises, false leaders, false loves. And though this clarity isolates you, it also liberates you. You walk alone, but you walk awake. You suffer deeply, but you are not deceived. And perhaps, in a world drowning in lies, that is the most valuable strength of all. The final price, then, is not just loneliness, but responsibility. For once you know, you cannot pretend not to know. You cannot laugh fully at the shallow joke, because you hear the despair beneath it. You cannot worship false idols, because you see their clay feet. You cannot live like a child anymore, because the veil has been torn away. To know too much is to carry responsibility for your own vision. You must decide. Will you let it crush you, or will you let it forge you? Jung himself wrestled with this until his final days. His visions nearly drove him insane. Yet from that madness, he birthed concepts, archetypes, the collective unconscious, the shadow, that reshaped psychology. His suffering became a gift to the world. This is the archetype of the wounded healer, the one who bleeds, but in bleeding, learns how to heal others. Those who know too much may be cursed, but their curse can become medicine for others. In modern times, think of those who confront truths about climate, politics, or the human psyche. They are mocked, ignored, even destroyed. But without them, society would remain asleep, marching towards collapse. The world needs those who see too much, even if it rejects them, because only they can whisper the truths no one wants to hear. So, where does this leave you, the one listening, perhaps burdened with your own clarity? It leaves you at a crossroads. To deny what you know is to fall back into illusions, but illusions will never satisfy you again. To embrace what you know is to carry a heavy burden, but also to live authentically, without masks, without denial. The burden will isolate you, but it will also shape you into someone unbreakable. Knowledge is not meant to make you happy. It is meant to make you free. And freedom, as Jung knew, is never comfortable. Freedom is the weight of carrying your shadow openly, without letting it destroy you. Freedom is standing in the fire of awareness and refusing to run. Freedom is bearing the burden of knowing too much and still choosing to live, to love, to create. So, when you feel crushed by your awareness, when you feel alone in your vision, remember, you are not cursed. You are chosen. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your initiation. To see too much is to suffer, yes, but it is also to awaken. An awakening, though it may cost you everything, is the only truth worth carrying. Perhaps the real question was never whether knowledge is a gift or a curse, but whether you were strong enough to carry both at once. You have seen the burden. You have felt the loneliness. You have walked with Jung into the shadow. And now, you stand at the threshold of choice, return to the comfort of illusions, or step forward into the raw weight of truth. Few will dare, most will run. But if you are still here, listening, it means you are one of the rare ones, the ones cursed or perhaps chosen to see deeper. The shadow will always follow you, but how you carry it will decide whether it destroys you or transforms you. So, tell me, what do you think? Is knowledge worth the suffering it brings? Or is ignorance, after all, the softer path? I want you to leave your thoughts in the comments. Speak your truth, because sometimes speaking it aloud is the first step to surviving it. And if you want to keep walking further into these hidden corridors of psychology, philosophy, and the human mind, subscribe. This is not a channel for comfort. This is a channel for those who want to see what others are too afraid to face. The burden of knowing too much is heavy, but here, you don't have to carry it alone.